We're here with the two candidates for Florida House District 43. We'd like to welcome both of you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you so much.
We're going to start out with a couple of questions that we ask all of our candidates, no matter what office we're looking at the first time they come in. And that is, and I'll start with you, Mr. Cortes. Have you been arrested before?
Yes, I was.
Tell us the circumstances.
It was my daughter. It was a situation with my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Not with my wife that the paper did.
Mm-hmm.
Because my daughter and my wife had the same name, so they made it into a spousal thing, which is what was not.
Mm-hmm.
It was a discipline on a 17-and-a-half-year-old daughter of mine,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the problem.
And what was the disposition of that?
I have an arrest with no charge.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mr. Irizarry?
Yes, I was.
Okay. You want to tell us the circumstance?
Well, if you figured out, I even know, after 4 years, I went to a place invited by a guest with a year of my wife was separated. We said divorce paper in my attorney's office. She showed up, she attacked me, and I was arrested because I happened to be a concealed weapon holder, and a gun was found in my car where it's supposed to be.
Okay. And how did that turn out?
Well, I decided to close the chapter and move on and start fresh,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I did.
Mm-hmm. But was there any kind of adjudication in that?
Well, I decided to accept the offer of the estate that was inappropriate an exhibition of a firearm or a dangerous object.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then I make the decision. I close the chapter. I say, it's not worth it to continue and make our kids suffer to actually show what happened.
Mm-hmm.
If I go to trial
Mm-hmm.
with all the evidence that we have, we'll be in different circumstances today. But I make the decision to close it.
So accepting that plea, did that come with jail time, community
Well,
service, or paying
nothing.
a fine?
It was a fine, was a probation, and because I was elected official at the time, they was asking me as an example to serve 18 years in jail, and I served it. The penalty, if you look at the Florida statute, do not require. But I believe because I was elected official, lead an example or something like that, close the chapter and move on. That was only one single incident in my entire 59 years old
Mm-hmm.
life.
Now, I asked you about arrests, but we do background checks on all of our candidates, and the background check for you also indicates multiple worthless check offenses in your background. I see at least a half dozen of those.
Me?
Yes.
No knowledge.
Okay. These date from 1990, a couple in 1990, a couple in 1989, two more in 1990.
No knowledge at all.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, my son had the same name, but
Mhm.
and that's the first time I heard it.
Okay. Now I'm going to start with another question that we ask all our candidates, and that is, and I'll ask both of you this, but I'll start with you, Mr. Irizarry. Have you ever declared bankruptcy?
Yes, sir.
Uh-huh. And when was that?
After the divorce,
Uh-huh. And what year was that?
2010, 2011,
Okay.
something like that was.
Okay. Do you, and what would you say to voters, since in your position, if you were elected, you would be managing taxpayer funds, who might have some doubts or questions about your fitness to manage public funds if you had problems with personal funds?
In our district, I believe more than 50% suffer the same thing that I suffered before. And to manage that situation properly. At the point that I was elected in 2006, 2010 by the city of Kissimmee citizens with the same idea.
Okay. Now, Mr. Cortes, same question. Have you declared bankruptcy before?
Yes, sir. In year 2000, I lost my business, and I wasn't getting a pension at the time. So and while I did it, I happened to fall upon a job, and it was too late to retract it. So I got a managed job working in downtown Disney. So I tried to get out the bankruptcy, but it was too late.
Well, I guess we can move on to some hopefully more pleasant questions for you gentlemen. Why don't we start with you, Mr. Cortes? Why are you running for office?
Well, I'm running in office to help the citizens of my area, Osceola County. I was asked these past years, if I would run, and they wanted me to run by the citizens. They weren't happy with the incumbent that was there. And I'm well known in the community, so I said I'll think about it, and I thought about it, and I did. And I want to do more for the community because we needed a lot to be done, and things weren't getting done. So I decided to run. I wanted to be the candidate that works for the people. A lot of these candidates forget about that.
What things in particular weren't getting done in your opinion?
Well, like talking to them, period. They don't talk to them. They don't listen. They don't listen to what's going on in their communities. Like I've been walking in neighborhoods for the past, 11 months now, and I'm hearing all their concerns that needed to be addressed, that I know other folks will never listen to.
What concerns are you hearing from the people?
Jobs, people getting losing their houses, food on the table, people living in motels and hotels, can't afford to get an apartment. Many other things. Also concerns about the neighborhoods, crime. People need, they like lighting in their houses. They want jobs closer to their homes. They don't want to go to Haines City. They don't want to go to Orlando. They want to live close to their jobs. And transportation, that was a big one. Transportation was one of the big ones. Like in Poinciana, they didn't have Sunday transportation or buses. And people like to go to church at the stores. And they would like some transportation over there.
Same question to you, Mr. Irizarry.
Well, I can answer basically the same thing that my fellow friend John has said, with the difference that I was elected 2006, 2010, and the people recognized the job that I did at that time with the small business, the job creation, economic development, and accomplish all the promise that I said that I would like to see the city of Kissimmee a nice place to live, play, and work, and I accomplished that. And actually, the people asked me to run because of the same thing that John said. Some of the elected officials not even answer the phone, and unfortunately, I have a reputation with my constituents that answer the phone no matter where I am, and have the answer of what they require. If I don't have the answer, I look for the answer, and I already proved that I've been a commissioner full-time, that I'm planning to do the same thing as the state legislature, because there are people needs in the outside, and I don't want any of my constituents to suffer what I suffer in hand, and that happening is right now in the street of Kissimmee, and I have, if I touch floor and I have the opportunity to grow and continue and be where I am right now, I can show that to my constituent as an example, that no matter what happened to you in the past, no matter how much difficult, there is always a hope that you can continue to develop what you are. If you want a better job, if you want a better education, if you want better housing, how to manage that, and all that stuff. I suffer everything, not because I've been knocking the doors and the people already know me, it's because I suffer the same thing, and I don't want my constituents to suffer that. That's going to be basically my campaign, and that's why they are most of the people behind me.
You speak about your campaign, and I went to your campaign website to try to find out more about the issues that are that you're concerned about. And under your About Carlos tab, all it says is, I need help to beat my Democratic opponent. It doesn't really give a platform. Can you talk about what issues concern you in this race?
Like I said before, you know, my website is being built basically as we speak. Because I need to realize that the opponent that my friend actually John beat on the primary, he crossed the line. He's not well known in the community, but he did a lot of good things in the community to help in all different aspects, and it was very difficult. And I was just trying to do the best I can. Answer to your question is 79% of the people that happen to live in that area are registered Democrat. And like I've been saying, this race is not in between a Democrat and a Republican. This race is not in between two Puerto Ricans. This race is not in between two persons that never know each other. We know each other since 2000. We are friends. We have our concern. And that's what we know to show our constitution with the different. That I was elected already. And I prove that I can do the job that I was hired to do.
Well, let me take you back to my question. My question is, what is your platform? If you were elected, what are the top 3 issues, for instance, that you would...
One, education, economic development, and better pay job.
And under the heading of education, what exactly would you be trying to do specifically?
I would like to present, my first bill will be that every single student that is 21 years old and went to high school, have high school certification, went to try to do the FCAT, because like it or not, the FCAT will stay there. Tried to do the FCAT and failed. Tried to do the other process and failed. They have 2.5 average or more and are registered to go to a college that the state will give them his diploma, and that way you don't get that little kid stuck. You can serve the military, you can die in the military without the diploma, but you can continue education without your diploma. I don't think that's fair. And that's why that's one of the bills that I already have the approved by the school board that like the idea, and I will try to do my best to move forward in that.
You said also economic development.
When I was city commissioner, I pushed to hire a director of economic development to take a little more closer look to bring jobs, better pay, and equality that will help the city of Kissimmee. And the evidence is there. We already prove it. In this case, in the state legislature, we try to help the small business in all different aspects. Tax relief, if we can do that. I don't like the penalty that the Obamacare is given to the small business. I don't like anybody be penalized for something like that. And if we can, in the state legislature, we can do something to help the small business, because 85% of the economy in this country belongs to the small business. And if you can continue doing that, I will do my best to do that.
And your third plank, I'm sorry, I forget what it was.
Economic development, education. What was the other one?
Better pay jobs.
I'm sorry?
Jobs.
Job creation. If you have a good, business and a small business, you can create jobs. There is a bill, or there is a comments, or there is a decision to increase the wage to $10. With the respect of my Democrat fellow friends, that is a Democrat issue that tried to push it. Today we cannot afford that, because if we do that, there's a lot of small business that will be out of business right away. And we already have a penalty with the Obamacare. Are we going to continue doing that? That doesn't mean that it may be in the future we can bring it up. And if you look at the number Here in Osceola County, $10, everybody make $10. It's more than that. It's a tourist place. And if you average that, it's more than $10 an hour.
Mr. Cortes, same question. What would be your top 3 priorities?
Education, energy, and employment. As far as the education, I want the kids coming out of high school, I want them workforce ready for a job immediately. Work with businesses to get them internships or some kind of programs where they can work with these companies so they can have a job when they get out. They don't have to be, could be plumbers, electricians, different things that we need in society. Also with the energy. Also, I don't want my kids going to school based on a test, being test ready instead of workforce ready. I'd rather see them learn something through education, not a test. Also, through energy, I would like to see us using less fossil fuels, and solar energy, geothermal, wind, and anything else that we can provide. The new diesels that they're using now to biodegradables. And this will create jobs because you need engineers, you need electricians, you need plumbers. And all these things will come together and they create the employment that we need. It'll be a base on a new way of living, a green way. And we don't need to rely on fossil fuels, and this will help the economy because people will be paying less for electricity, or maybe not be paying that much at all. And they can also, the agriculture system to this will help it out because you got aquaponics, and aquaponics, I forgot the other one, and hydroponics. So work on something like that. I'm working also with a lady that has, she mentors, she's gonna mentor her foster kids after they foster out, and they're gonna work with veterans using them as mentors. And we're going to grow stuff through hydroponics and agriculture so we can feed the homeless and not rely on the government. We're going to work on something like that. So it produces and everybody, gets a job through education also. And they can live there. It's going to be a place where they're going to live, to learn how to live on their own.
I'm going to circle back to Mr. Irizarry talking about how he's done the job as a elected commissioner in Kissimmee. What makes you more qualified? What in your background makes you more qualified than your opponent to serve in the legislature?
Well, I'm a candidate that listens to the people and see what their needs are. I don't profess to know everything. I'm willing to learn. Like my grandmother taught me, the guy who knows everything doesn't know everything. And you use people who are qualified and you hire them to help you to produce. You don't do everything on your own, make stupid decisions. You hire somebody that will help you to make the right decisions. And I don't profess to know everything. I'm willing to learn. And if I have to go to school to learn some more things about things going on, I will. I want Osceola County to be the example for the rest of Florida so we can make a better economy in Florida and live better. And also do something about having a living wage.
Do you have any examples in your background of serving on public boards?
I served on the Parks and Recs boards in Osceola County in the city of Kissimmee. I was also a member of CERT, Community Emergency Response Team. I was also president of Crime Watch in Kissimmee. I was also the Democratic Hispanic Caucus president in Osceola. I'm currently the vice president of the Democratic Osceola, the Democratic Hispanic Caucus. What else did I serve on? And I served on the one that measures the Board of Adjustment. I served on the Board of Adjustment in Kissimmee.
Mr. Irizarry, is there anything you want to add to supplement your background? Any other things that you've served on? Any other public service in addition to being on the city council?
Since 1975, I used to work for the governor in Puerto Rico until 1988 that I moved to Florida. And I was honored to be part of John Quiñones' first team of work in 2002, I think was when he was elected in the state legislature. At no charge, I didn't charge for that, I just want to take the experience. And I be involved in the community besides be elected. I was part of the Policy Council Head Start president. I was member of the chamber in Puerto Rican Chamber, Metro Chamber, Osceola Chamber, Hispanic Chamber. I was member of Education Foundation, Community Vision, BFK, Domestic Violence. I was a mentor of Tech Children in Osceola County. I was member also of the Fire and Rescue Osceola County Board and member of the Code Enforcement Board before I became a city commissioner. That I can't remember.
Mr. Cortes, do you think that Florida should accept federal funds to expand health care coverage in the state?
Yes, I do. It's going to create jobs.
And same question to you, Mr. Irizarry.
No, I don't.
Why not?
Because the Florida can solve the Medicaid problem themselves, and that's what we're looking for.
How can he solve it?
Well, if you continue doing the health care, the Obamacare, that is being proved that it don't work, and you continue doing the same thing, there is no reason why we need to continue getting money to the state to funding something that we can continue to develop here in the state.
Do you have an alternative in mind?
Not yet. Not yet.
Let's move on to this question. What changes, if any, do you support to Florida's tax system, Mr. Cortes?
Tax system? We need to be more responsible of how we are doing our taxes right now. We need a team to evaluate where our taxes are going and how we are using our taxes. Nobody's been taking responsibility for doing taxes, and we need some kind of responsibility. I would like to see somebody with a great background in not accounting, but a major tax person who can evaluate our taxes and to see where and what are we doing with our taxes, so we don't have to raise taxes. And if we do have to raise taxes, let the people know why. Why are you raising taxes? Because people don't want to raise taxes. I don't want taxes raised, but we need to find out why. People want to know why. And I believe there's some way we can get funding from either the federal government, the state government, or any other government that can teach us how to manipulate the taxes where we use them correctly, because we're not using our taxes correctly. Especially for education, we lost in education, and creating jobs. So if we create jobs, then our tax base will go up, especially anywhere you live.
Mr. Irizarry, same question.
Can you repeat it just to make sure?
Any changes to the tax system that you advocate?
I think that the Governor Scott is doing the best to lower the taxes. He's been lowering it since he came into office, and the economy started to growing. When he took office, the percentage of unemployment was almost 14%, and right now it's 6.5%, and over 600 people working instead of 3.5 when Governor Chris took office, and he left it with a lot of negative on the budget. Right now we have a surplus over $1 billion and 600 people working outside and less taxes at this point.
Mr. Cortes, how do you think Governor Scott has done in the last 4 years?
Well, we've lost 450,000 jobs with the Sunrail. We've lost our Medicaid expansion. I think he's done a terrible job. We're losing jobs, and we're losing Medicaid expansion where people are dying of cancer and other medical illnesses, and they can't get any help, and they're living in the street homeless. So what has he done? Created 600 jobs? That's nothing. We lost 450,000 jobs. And plus he's giving tax breaks to companies that don't need the tax breaks, and forgets about the mom and pop companies, and forgets about the taxpayers that pay the taxes. We have no more middle class. Our middle class is lost. Now it's either you're rich or you're poor.
Mr. Cortes, you talked about creating jobs. Where do you stand on giving incentives to lure businesses here to Florida?
Well, if it's going to benefit the communities and the different counties to an extent where it's going to help, I agree with it. But if it's not going to help and they're just going to take the tax credits and put it in their pocket, I will not agree with it. I want to see production. I want to see where it's doing that is producing jobs. Not like certain things that, I'm not gonna mention the companies, they brought the company in, they gave the people, 600 jobs, and then by the end of the year, they fired 200 and kept 400. So how are you producing? You just got rid of 200 people. If you're gonna give them an incentive, you gotta keep the incentive. Like right now what they do with the veterans, they'll hire a guy for a veteran for a year, because he has tax credits, and then they get rid of him. I don't think that's right either.
Same question to you, Mr. Irizarry.
Already, I think that I answered that. Everything that will accomplish to help the small business to develop his business and to keep their employees. It's like John said.
Well, let me stop, because the incentives would be to some big company
Some
like
big company,
IBM
small
to relocate
business.
here.
This is a chain.
Okay.
In the way I look at it is, if you have a big company, that big company will supply to the small company, and that small company to the small company. If you can give them an incentive, they can hire more people because they have to pay less money. And if you do that, you have more small business that will support that big one. And that's the, I don't want to use that word, it's going like a pyramid, but it's something like that. And if you continue doing that, and you can do that. Has been done. Governor Scott is doing it, and at this point it's working. And there's a lot of more things to do, yes. If there's a lot of things that need to be fixed, yes. But everything needs to start from the beginning, and that's what we're doing right now. And at this point, we are in the right track, and we don't want to go back.
Mr. Cortes, can you name somewhere in the state budget that you would cut spending?
Cut spending. Right off the top of my head right now, I couldn't think of one right now. But I would like to increase spending on school budgets.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have to look into the budget first, because I haven't seen the budget, really studied it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to give you a comment with something I don't know about yet. But I would like to see what it is, and if it needs to be cut, we will cut it.
Mr. Irizarry, where would you cut spending?
In anything that is doesn't relate it specific with the employees, starting from the governor office all the way down.
Mm-hmm. So how about environmental protection?
No. Anything that will affect an employees, that will affect the environmental.
Mm-hmm.
More administrative, but not to fire people, just expensive that they don't have to. For example, when Governor Scott took office, the first thing he did was to sell 2 or 3 aircrafts that wasn't necessary, and vehicles, and something like that used to be there when he took office. Something like that. You can cut budget over there. The rest, no.
Mr. Cortes, do you think Florida should have a requirement, an E-Verify requirement for employers to require them to check on the immigration status of employees before hiring them?
That's a good question. That, to me, is, if it's not in violation of the HIPAA, well, not the HIPAA Act is for the medical, but it's not in violation of their civil rights, I don't see a problem with it. But if it's in violation of their civil rights, then I have a problem with it. But there's a lot of people that have resident status, and that will affect a lot of them. And sometimes employers base their residency of hiring on these things, and I don't think it's right. So I need to look into that and study it more and reevaluate that question.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Irizarry?
No.
Okay. And why not?
There is 11 million illegal residents in the entire nation that they're doing everything they can to survive. They're doing everything. They pay their taxes. They send kids to school. They are very successful people and person, regardless where they're coming from. Why you need to penalize them to look if it's not? That will affect also our economy. I don't like to see that.
Okay, I think we're just about out of time here. What we'll do next is